This was not a random act of violence. This was not disconnected. They intend to carry out more and more and more of these terror attacks, whether Paris, whether San Bernardino, whether Brussels.
Good morning, everybody. Fox News alert now. It has happened yet again. Terror strikes in the heart of Europe.
It's okay.
This, the scene from the airport moments after an explosion there ripped through the airport. The subway system hit a short time later in the Belgian capital, Brussels. 26 are dead, 136 injured in what appear to be coordinated attacks. Those numbers could and most likely will change as we move throughout the morning. And welcome to our ongoing coverage here inside of America's Newsroom. I'm Bill Hemmer, and it's happened again. Martha, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. So there is chaos this morning. The blast went off inside a busy airport and rail station. Belgium raising its terror alert to its highest level now. Here is the latest as we break it down for you as we know right now. 26 people dead, 11 of those were killed, 81 injured after two explosions that went off first at the international airport. Belgium's federal prosecutor saying at least one of the blasts was caused by a likely suicide bomber. People were seen running for safety in this video that you can take a look at now, and the smoky images that first came out from the terminal and the terrifying aftermath of these attacks.
At least 15 others dead, 55 injured. Another explosion of a Malbec metro station. The airport's on lockdown, all flights canceled, rail travel suspended. Here is what some of the eyewitnesses saw first.
You just feel like a wave, explosion, a wave go through your whole body. And you knew, as soon as it happened, no doubt, this is a terrorist attack.
How far do you think you were from the explosion? I don't know.
It felt muffled, so I knew we were not very close to it, but we were close enough that it reverberated throughout our entire house. So, I don't know. B5.
They said it happened
Too close.
More on that. Benjamin Hall leads our coverage live in London now. The story is changing quickly. Benjamin, let's start with you and the latest.
Yeah, morning, Bill. Well, another coordinated attack by terrorists in the heart of London. That death toll rising all the time. We now know it's up around 34, and it seems to have played out like this. At 8 a.m. there was an explosion in the airport. One suicide bomber and one which fits in with a suitcase bomb. A lot of lower legs shattered. About an hour later at the metro, another bomb. Now, both of these attacks may have been aimed at American targets, the American Airlines check-in desk at the airport, and then the American embassy near the metro station. No confirmation of that yet, nor is there any confirmation of who is responsible. We can all make suggestions, but ISIS have not directly claimed this, and they usually would do that a couple of days maybe after the attack, as they did in Paris. But they are cheering this attack on Twitter. ISIS-linked account using the hashtag Brussels on fire in the same way they used Paris on fire. So waiting for that confirmation. But one of the reasons they might not have claimed it yet is because they let their operatives get away, or this operation may still be in process. And the foreign minister saying, we fear there are more people out there. Bill.
Benjamin, getting a report now out of Brussels, unconfirmed, that a suicide belt that did not explode was found at the airport. Just walk us through this as you understand it. First, the airport and the train station. The timeline is what, as best as you can put together?
Well, around 8 a.m. local, the airport, there was explosions there at the airport, and we have around 14 now almost confirmed there. An hour later at the metro station, 20 killed. And the suicide vest, very important. It links back to those arrests which took place just on Friday. Saleh Abdeslam. They are looking for another man who was with him earlier in the week who is linked with the Paris explosive vests, and he is now very wanted. His name is Najim Lacroix. So very much this sense that there are other ISIS networks out there, and Brussels is now under complete lockdown. They are searching houses in that infamous district of Molenbeek, and they are closing borders to prevent other people fleeing, if indeed more people are out there.
Benjamin, thank you. We'll get you back to you in a moment here. Give you a moment to get more information. In London, Benjamin Hall leading our coverage from that European capital. Back here in New York now with Martha.
Well, these attacks come just days after the arrest of Saleh Abdeslam in Belgium. He is suspected of planning the coordinated terror attacks in Paris last November and said to be the last of the group that were part of those operatives that were on the run. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge live in Washington today. So Catherine, what are your sources telling you about whether there's a connection between this attack and the arrest of Abdeslam?
Well, Martha, good morning. A counterterrorism source tells Fox News that the priority for investigators on the ground in Brussels is the identification of the suicide bomber or bombers so that they can lead to a wider network. One of the working theories, we're told, is that the arrest last Friday of Salah Abdeslam accelerated an existing plot that was in the pipeline to target the metro system in Brussels, Belgium, as well as the airport. But once Salah Abdeslam was picked up on Friday, the operatives decided to move forward the date of execution. Also this morning, we're told by a counterterrorism source that a credible ISIS account has posted a message that reads in part, Mosul revenge for Kufr capital Brussels. Kufr is a term used by ISIS and related groups to speak of the non-believers in Western nations. This does not amount to a claim of responsibility, but it's another data point going back to an ISIS-affiliated group. Also within the last hour, we've had confirmation from the authorities on the ground in Brussels that a Kalashnikov assault rifle was also found at the airport near one of the suicide bombers. A Kalashnikov rifle is the same type of weapon that was used in Paris and that is widely trained on in Syria by ISIS and al-Qaeda followers, Martha.
This is the sort of the most recent attack that we've seen, that combination of the Kalashnikov rifle on site with the suicide belts in combination. It looks very much like what we saw in Paris, as you have been telling us this morning, Catherine. So in terms of the response here at home, what does U.S. law enforcement do to sort of prepare us for any potential attack here?
Well, we've been reporting since very early this morning that the Secretary of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, has been briefed by his Operations Center. He is fully engaged, as is the FBI and the National Counterterrorism Center. This was the hub for threat analysis that was set up after 9/11. It's kind of the clearinghouse for all of the threat information. What we understand through our contacts is that the U.S. intelligence community is going back over the last 96 hours of intelligence to see if any warnings were missed that seem more important today than they did over the weekend in terms of flagging the upcoming attack in Brussels, Belgium, and whether, having given a sort of a second look or a refresh to the intelligence, there's a change in the thinking about whether there may be a credible or specific threat targeting the United States. That conclusion has not been reached at this point, but we were also told that there will be a specific focus on these soft targets, the security surrounding them, and in particular these public areas of the airports where we saw the attack in Brussels this morning, and which has already been flagged by the TSA administrator to Fox News as an area of deep concern for aviation security.
Catherine, thank you. We're going to talk to Michael Chertoff of Homeland Security, former Homeland Security Director, coming up in just a few moments. Catherine.
In the meantime, Martha, a bit of geography right now. In Brussels, Belgium, the capital city, we'll go in and show you what we can pick out right now on the map. That neighborhood of Molenbeek to the west of Belgium. Here is the central part of the city and the neighborhood of Molenbeek, which is where the investigation started 4 months ago after the attacks in Paris. This is where they were living in, you can make the case, over the past 4 months, living in plain sight. Here's the airport to the northeast. Here's the metro, the train station. It's about 12 miles to the airport from this direction. It's about 8 miles from this direction as well. You hear a lot about the EU, the European Union, its headquarters just on the eastern side of the city. That's located right around here, just to the east of the train station by the crow flies. That's about 3 miles from Molenbeek as well. This has been the target of European counterterrorism for 4 months, and they only 2 days ago were able to capture one of the masterminds of Paris, so keep an eye on that too. Martha, the other thing I think that is very important about understanding this and the threat. Great piece, New York Times on Sunday. 3 things become very obvious. They're using disposable phones, what they call burner phones. They found dozens and dozens of unused phones inside this apartment in central Paris once they tracked down the mastermind, and he went down in a deadly firefight there. Burner phones, disposable phones, are used sometimes one time. Maybe you log on the internet, maybe you make one phone call, maybe you make one text, and that is very important to understand how they're getting ahead of the game, and law enforcement is trying to keep pace. Number 2, easy immigration. The investigation in Paris shows that Abdel Salam admitted that up to 90 ISIS terrorists were moving from Syria and Belgium and other parts of Europe. That is a huge challenge. And number three, they are excellent bomb makers with very simple, basic, rudimentary devices, and they can do it with mobility, meaning they can make it in Brussels, they can make it in Paris, and that means they can make it anywhere. Three things right now how this threat is evolving. With this.
Nail polish remover and hydrogen peroxide put together and laid out very clearly in Dabik and in Inspire, the magazines that are all over the internet, and they are packing them with nails and with metal, and the combination of that wreaks the havoc that we've seen today in Brussels, and the great fear is that we could continue to see it in other places in Europe and potentially here at home as well.
ISIS claiming responsibility for those attacks, which killed at least 31 people and injured nearly 200 more. And we're just getting some reports from European media that police are searching for 3 suspects, 2 directly involved and 1 accomplice. Among the injured, 3 American missionaries from Utah. And we're also learning that a U.S. service member and his family were hurt in one of the bombings, but their conditions are unknown at this hour. At the 3 missionaries, they were inside the airport in Brussels when 2 explosions ripped through the American Airlines departure terminal. A 3rd explosion targeting a subway train that runs beneath the headquarters of the European Union, just 2 blocks away from the American embassy. And officials say that at least one of the airport explosions was the work of a suicide bomber. They believe it was one of these 3 men. Officials had been warning that ISIS was preparing to strike.
Those concerns heightened with the arrest of Salah Abdeslam last Friday, the main suspect in the Paris terror attacks. Belgium's prime minister today saying their fears had come true. We have Fox Live team coverage. Rick Leventhal on the stepped-up security here in the U.S. But first to Greg Palcock with the latest from Brussels. Greg.
John, since we last spoke, there have been important developments, and Heather referred to them. Behind us, an airport closed down. You're not seeing any planes going in or going out. It is Brussels Airport, and it has been closed down by terror. And in the city behind us and ahead of us, a manhunt, a desperate manhunt for the killers. What we are hearing from local newspapers in the last 20 minutes or so is that police are looking for 3 people. 2 they describe as suspects. 2 they describe as fugitives. 1, we believe, coming from the airport. Another coming from the subway station that was also hit by ISIS-backed bombs. There are photos of both of these individuals out there, and you gotta believe that the police are looking very hard, and there have been reports of house-to-house searches to find these people. These are not just accomplices, not just the support staff. These are the people with blood on their hands. And as you've been talking about, it's at least 30 dead, and now a new figure on the injury side. 230 killed, both here at the airport and at that subway station, which was in the heart of the government district, the European Union district here in Brussels. To bring it on home for our American viewers, it's as if 2 bombs went off at Ronald Reagan Airport right in the heart of Washington, D.C., and another bomb went off at a metro stop not far from the Capitol. This is how significant the timing was. Again, we've been showing you this amateur video, and it is gripping. When the first bomb went off, we believe it was a suitcase bomb. Then the second bomb went off. We believe it was a suicide belt. Dust filled the air. People were screaming. Tiles were coming off the ceiling. Glass was being blown out of the front of the terminal. This is the departure terminal, packed at about between 7 and 8 a.m. And just an hour later, in a very busy subway station, another bomb going off. We believe inside one of the subway cars. That's what the pictures seem to indicate. And that, even more carnage. We believe about 20 people were killed in a very closed space. In the past hour and a half or so, there has been a claim of responsibility. It is coming from ISIS. To be expected by a lot of terror experts here. Just 4 days ago, Salah Abdeslam, the ISIS-backed key accomplice in the Paris terror attacks from last November, was arrested. A lot of people are thinking that and it was claimed that he told prosecutors that he was planning something, that he had a finger in what was happening here. At least a response, at least a reaction. Again, the airport closed. Every 5 minutes we hear police sirens going by. A very active scene in this city looking for the killers. Back to you, John.
Greg Palcott on the situation in Brussels. Greg, thank you.